Hi, this is Randy Wimmer with Government Contracting Academy, and today we're going to discuss how small business set-aside certifications can really give your company an advantage in the small business set-aside market space within the federal government contracting industry. I'm even going to go one step further, and I'm going to say it's not an advantage anymore. It's a necessity. If you're not seeking small business set-aside certifications, then you are at an extreme disadvantage. Now, a lot of people are going to be saying like, hey, Randy, what if you're not a woman? What if you're not a minority? What if you're not a service disabled, veteran? I want to show you the best one to have, and that any small business can attain it. So we'll get to that here in a minute. So why is this so important? Well, despite the glowing grades that the government gives itself for small business set-aside program, they're cheating. They're cheating in a very, very big way. The federal government dislikes small businesses so much that they're trying to eliminate them in the federal government market space. How are they doing that? By redefining what a small business is. When you're competing against other small businesses, and those other small businesses can be approaching, $250 million, then, that's no longer a small business set aside. That's something completely different. It's a lie, is what it becomes. $34 million is what they're now calling a small business that does IT work. IT work. It's crazy. However, what they're really doing is they recently changed how revenue is being calculated. Now it's done over a 5-year running average. A company could legally bid against you as a small business in the 541-511 custom computer programming services NAICS code that has a small business size threshold of 34 million with this growth pattern. In 2018, they were 5 million in revenue per their tax returns. 2019, they grew to 10 million. 2020, they grew to 25 million. 2021, they grew to 50 million. Now, they've already outgrown the 34 million, but no, because it's a running average. 2022, they have $80 million in revenue. That's almost 3 times more than what the stated small business size threshold is. But if you average those 5 together, you're at 34 million. They're a legal small business. But this is what they really do. Now, that's at the end of 2022. That's what their revenue was. So what did they do in 2023? Well, they grew to 150 million. Wow. I guess they're no longer small business. No, they still are. Why? Because they have until April 15th to file their tax returns. That actually validates them as being $150 million a year company. But you know what these guys are? They're clever. They're not going to do their tax returns in April of 2024 for their 2023 revenue. They're going to file an automatic extension until October of that year. So you can be September before they actually have to submit their extended tax return for the 2023 year. They're still using 2022 as their most recent calculated revenue year. Now, how big do you think that company is? They're probably pushing $200 to $250 million, $250 million, and yet they're competing legally as a small business. If you want to have a fighting chance, you need to look at one of these 4 stated set-aside requirements: service disabled, veteran-owned small business, women-owned small business, 8A, and then which is small disadvantaged business in the federal government market program, and then you have HUBZone, historically unutilized business zone. Instead of competing against 100,000 plus as an SDVOSB, you only got to compete against 18,000. Women-owned, 11,000. 8A, 6,000. HUBZone, 5,000. And you have specific earmarks. For small businesses, everybody knows about the 23%, small business set aside earmark. Hey, it's 23%. Where do you think most of that 23% is going? It's going to those massive companies. Or to small businesses, really small businesses that know how to project corporate maturity. And there's a way to do that, and I'm kind of alluding to it in this particular slide. If you want to get the level of competition down, you got to be one of these companies. You can't compete against a $150 million small business. You've got to be competing against these categories of companies, because they're the ones that it's a fair fight at that point. Nothing's fair between you and a $150 million small business. And the earmarks are absolutely massive still. Everybody thinks like it's not worth it. It's only 3%. Like, well, that 3% equates to $21 billion in prime contracting earmarks and over $10 billion in subcontracting earmarks. And there's only 5,000 of them. So this is what's crazy. I tell people, like, hey, now that you've got this thing down to a reasonable number, take it down to a couple dozen. Get a couple of ISO certifications that prove that you're a low risk company, that prove that you're a mature company. And now all of a sudden, when you're one of these HUBZones, they're trying to get on a massive contract team as a subcontractor, there's only one of, you'd be one of 16 that actually had 2 ISO certifications. So that's the game you want to play. You want to eliminate as much of your competitive field as possible. So you eliminate all of those massive $150 million plus companies, because I guarantee you they're not HUBZones. So now you're only competing against 5,000. But why not lower it to 51 or even 16? That's the way that you succeed in this industry. You've got to continuously neck down your competitive field. Are there opportunities? Now, again, I want you to think about this. The government gave themselves an A, and they also have a 109%, score. 20 out of 24 agencies did not meet their subcontracting goals in 2022. Now, I want you to think about that. 20 out of 24 did not meet their subcontracting goals. There's only 4 of these that did: labor, education, NASA, and the Social Security Administration. There's only 4 that met all of their subcontracting goals for these set-asides. Not, all of them met it for the overall small business. Why? Because they're giving it to contractors that are $150 million in an annual revenue, and counting that as small. That's not small. These companies are small, and they're failing horrifically at it. So the deal is you've got to become one of these 4 set-aside categories. And again, these 3, women-owned, 8A, and then you have service-disabled, veteran-owned small businesses. All 3 of these deal with the demographics of the owner of the business. HUBZone is different. Anybody can own a HUBZone company. There's 2 main requirements for a HUBZone. One is you have to have an office in a HUBZone designated area. Now, I'm not going to go through that process. Just Google a HUBZone map and you can pull it up. I've yet to speak with somebody, and I speak with a lot of people that isn't at least within a 30 minutes commute to a HUBZone designated area. All you need is an office. It's a door with a lock and a key. That's all you need. It could be the size of a broom closet. It could be your brother's spare bedroom. It could be the room over a garage in a neighbor's house. Whatever it is, as long as that location is in a HUBZone and you got a lease for it. The second thing is you need to have 35% of your workforce reside in a HUBZone. So if you're a one-person company and you do not reside in a HUBZone, hire somebody for 40 hours a month, because that's the criteria for an employee for the HUBZone application process. It's 40 hours a month at minimum wage. And do you know how many payroll cycles you need in order to apply? 3. That's what it takes in order to be able to get through the HUBZone process. And everybody can do it. And if you look at this, there's probably more gold. There is more gold in the HUBZone category than any others. That means that they are failing to find enough HUBZones to give their full subcontracting earmark to, and all these ones that are highlighted in gold. It's the best one going. Now, How do you prove that you're a mature small business? Well, you do that through corporate credentials. It is extremely easy for a small business to get ISO certified. And ISO certified is the ultimate and tangible, verifiable proof point. You have been audited by an accredited third party and found compliant with the globally accepted industry best practices for management. It's the perfect tool to prove that you are a mature, low-risk small business, because it doesn't matter who your prime contractor is. It could be IBM, it could be Northrop Grumman, it could be Lockheed Martin. They are required to give 29.43% to their contract to small businesses, companies that nobody's ever heard of. They are hypersensitive about risk, and they won't even talk to you unless you can immediately prove that you're a mature small business and are low risk. So I hope this helps. Again, don't compete against the full 100,000 plus small businesses. Compete against those small business set-asides where they can't find enough of them in order to give the full earmark to. They're leaving literally tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars in small business subcontracting earmarks on the table because they can't find enough low-risk small businesses in each of those set-aside categories. So that's the strategy to take.